Hello and welcome. My name is Dave Bastian, and I am the Partnerships Director for the Canyon Country Discovery Center and the Canyon Country Youth Corps based in Monticello, Utah. And I'm here to talk to you about Conservation Corps programs in our state and the ways we provide environmental education to participants of our programs, individuals we refer to as members. Some of you watching this might be very familiar with Conservation Corps programs. Some of you may have even served with one of these programs in another state or here in Utah. But I've been in the Corps world for over a decade now, and when I mention what I do for work, there is usually one response I hear more than any other, and that is, oh, is that like the CCC? My grandfather, or more commonly now my great-grandfather, was part of the UCC. I had no idea something like that was still around. So for those of you very familiar with the Corps world, I apologize. But we're going to get into the basics of what a Corps is, what we do, and since this is the UC conference, how we fit into the world of environmental education. So what is the Conservation Corps? Well, for our purposes today, we're going to use the Corps network definition of a Conservation Corps, which is a locally based organization that engages youth and young adults, generally ages 16 to 25, and veterans up to age 35 in service projects that address recreation, conservation, disaster response, and community needs. The Corps Network is the organization that represents over 130 Corps programs, providing service opportunities for young adults and veterans on public lands and in rural and urban communities. Every state has a Corps program based there or operating in that state with a satellite office. Let's talk about Utah. After all, this is a Utah-focused event. We have 3 local Corps programs based in our state: the Intergovernmental Internship Cooperative, the Utah Conservation Corps, and the Canyon Country Youth Corps. We also have 2 national programs that operate in Utah: the American Conservation Experience, also known as ACE, and the Student Conservation Association, also known as SCA. We're not going to focus on these 2 programs today, but they both do fantastic work in our state, just like us. And they also have great websites where you can explore to learn more. All right, let's start with the Intergovernmental Internship Cooperative, or IIC for short. The IIC program is housed at Southern Utah University and engages youth in building meaningful leadership and education skills. These experiences provide opportunities to develop a working knowledge about natural and cultural resources and a variety of careers in public lands management while shaping the next generation of public land leaders and advocates. Next up is the Utah Conservation Corps, or UCC. The UCC is based at Utah State University. They are an AmeriCorps program made up of members, staff, and partners dedicated to service to our community and environment. They engage in projects throughout the state of Utah that address goals relating to environmental conservation, leadership, education, and sustainability. They are the largest program in the state with offices in Logan, Cedar City, and Moab. And finally, the Canyon Country Youth Corps, where I work, or also known as CCYC. We are the stewardship program of the Canyon Country Discovery Center in Monticello, Utah. CCYC completes service projects on public lands in the Four Corners area in partnership with land management agencies. All of these programs proudly trace our history back to the Depression-era program, the Civilian Conservation Corps, which operated from 1933 to 1942. The CCC provided jobs to young men, and it was just young men at that point in time, between 18 and 25. They built trails, worked on erosion control, fought fires, planted trees, and made other improvements to public lands. Here in Utah, the CCC operated 116 camps and employed about 200 men. The legacy of the CCC in Utah lives on today in places like Zion National Park, where the CCC built trails and infrastructure that we continue to enjoy. We're proud to be a part of this legacy of conservation work. Much of what we do today would be very familiar for a CCC boy. The tools we use, the projects we engage in, and the bonds that are formed are all similar, if not exactly the same. And I'm not just guessing at this. I know because I had the incredible opportunity to spend a few days with some of these CCC boys, like the man there in the hat to the right of me from the picture. I'll be honest, and anyone who's heard me talk has heard me tell this story. I was a bit nervous to hang out with these guys. I just was afraid they were going to look at us and say that we were cute, but that they were the real McCoy and we were just kind of playing. But they didn't. They, without question, welcomed us with open arms as brothers and sisters in conservation. And it was, not to be dramatic, one of the highlights of my life. But the fact is, some things have changed since the era of the CCC. One being that we don't just allow men in, but also have women. Another is that we partner with different agencies than they did. In our case, it's AmeriCorps and UServe Utah. Most of the programs in Utah are partnered with AmeriCorps through UServe Utah. This gives our members a living allowance during their term of service and an education award upon completion of that service that they can use to further their education goals. These partnerships help us fulfill the AmeriCorps goal of getting things done. UServe Utah is the organization in Utah that administers AmeriCorps grants from the Corporation for National and Community Service. UServe Utah and that CNCS funding contribute heavily to Utah's volunteer culture. CNCS research conducted in 2012 found that Utah ranks as the #1 volunteering state in the nation, with nearly 41% of adults volunteering. This is a rate significantly above the national average of roughly 27%. On average, Utah's volunteers dedicate 144 million hours of service per year, which is equivalent to 69,000 full-time employees, with an estimated economic contribution of $3.7 billion annually. All right, so what do we do? Even my parents have asked me this question, and I think all Corps members have heard it more than a few times. So what exactly do we do? Well, just like I mentioned before, just like our predecessors in the CCC, we build trails all over the state of Utah for federal, state, and municipal partners. We conduct habitat restoration projects in riparian areas such as the Escalante, San Juan, and Colorado rivers, and we do this via rafts, horse packing, and backpacking our gear into some incredibly remote places. We also build fences and exclosures for sensitive areas and rangeland. All of this work seeks to connect our members to this place, Utah and the Colorado Plateau, that we all call home. While the majority of our days are spent doing the hard work to make our public lands better and more accessible, there's also always been a focus on the why as well as the how. This year, the Canyon Country Discovery Center received a grant from the Sorensen Legacy Foundation, and in partnership with the Utah Society for Environmental Education, we are currently in the process of revamping our Conservation Corps education program, and we'll be rolling it out for the 2021 field season. So while that is currently a work in progress, it's something we're incredibly excited about. This new education program will consist of a field reader with articles and writings about the projects we are involved in, guest lecturers that will give more in-depth info as the season progresses, and a stronger connection to post-service employment opportunities with the partners we work with. Once we have the program dialed and effective, we hope to offer it to other programs in the West who might need to beef up their education endeavors. All of this is very exciting, and I'm very proud to be a part of the Corps world. But the fact is, if you just listen to me all day, an important voice would be missing. So for a bit here, I'd like to kind of bring that voice into this. I'd like you to hear from the members who serve in these programs as they tell us why they joined and how the experience has benefited them. Unfortunately, I don't have recordings of them, but what I did is I interviewed some past and current Corps members so I could share what I learned from you. All right, so David Taft. He worked with Rocky Mountain Youth Corps and Steamboat in 2011, and then the Mile High Youth Corps in Denver in 2008 and again in 2010. David had a desire to work in public lands and conservation following his degree program, and since it was 2008 and there were very, very few jobs, David looked toward the Corps as his access point to conservation work. Katie DeAngelis chose the Student Conservation Association because she was living in the city of Philadelphia at the time and was shocked that there was a job leading youth on conservation programs in that city. SCA introduced her to the world of conservation corps, and she joined the Canyon Country Youth Corps because it was a longer-term position in an awesome part of the country. She figured it would be a good place to network and further her career in lands management since CCYC is surrounded by public lands. And James was looking for something outdoors and camping oriented after dropping out of college. He said he always loved being outside and working with tools, and he wanted to get paid to do that. And finally, Zach Strickland. Zach joined because he felt like at that point in his life, there was a natural change happening, and he wasn't too sure what he wanted to do, but he wanted to do more. Zach said he knew he wanted to give back to our public lands. As you heard from nearly all these folks, the West in general and Utah more specifically was a big pull for them. For Zach, there was never any other consideration. Utah was the choice from the beginning. James wanted to get out west, and Utah fit that bill. And Katie, as we heard before, she just felt Utah was an awesome part of the country. All right, so what do these folks get from this experience? What are we providing them, and how are we living up to that mission? Well, to start, we provide them with training such as wilderness medicine skills, either a wilderness first aid or more often a wilderness first responder. We also give them training certs such as chainsaw and herbicide safety. And we teach them leave no trace ethics and basic backcountry camping and skills, along with the other hard skills they need to complete the projects. As James put it, I received a medical certification to help me in my careers as a ski patrol and raft guide, as well as accustom me to backcountry travel and living. Another huge benefit Corps members get is the chance to interact with partners at state, federal, and municipal land agencies to better learn about the career opportunities available to them. Through his time in the Corps program, Zach was able to work with a variety of land management organizations doing a variety of projects. He got to figure out how and where he wanted to build his future. David said, I was able to develop useful skills that benefited me later as a guide, project manager at Volunteers for Outdoor Colorado, and now as conservation director for San Juan Mountains Association. It was the foundation for essentially everything I have done since. And Katie said, the opportunity to network with professionals in land management has been beneficial. Leading crews is also a great way to develop skills you will need in any workplace. David told me that one of the most valuable skills he gained from his times with the Corps was the ability to manage complicated challenges independently. As a crew leader, he said, you are often confronted by situations in which there is very little access to superiors and consequently learn to manage issues yourself. This has been a useful skill both in work and in life. And from Zach again, I would say that my experience generally shaped my way of living. When you're out there working and connecting with nature and working as a community, things develop in your mind. You are no longer just an individual, but a part of a larger movement. Katie added, I've become more confident with myself regarding skills, figuring most things out, and more comfortable in a backcountry setting. Working with conservation corps also helped me handle conflict better and to work with a diverse group of people. Our members formed some incredible bonds over the course of a field season. James felt like his time in the Corps world changed his life entirely and sent him down both professional careers he has been in ever since. It introduced him to his current home of Salt Lake, where he's been for the past 5 years, and it has given a massive network of close friends that he holds dear to this day. When asked what he wanted people to know about the Corps world, James said, it's a lovely way to spend time in amazing outdoor locations and give back to the outdoor community. If you are an adventurous spirit and looking to travel and explore and meet like-minded people, join the Corps. It's a fantastic experience. And David added that the Corps was one of the most memorable and helpful experiences I've ever had. Especially in moments like the present, the Corps offers an opportunity for young people to serve their communities, explore public lands, build skills for future positions, and set a solid foundation for their lives. He continued, in times like these, when jobs are scarce and the world is uncertain, we could greatly benefit our society and participants to expand these programs and ensure the outcomes that come along with them. And Katie added, it sure is not your normal job, but that's the best part about it. And I could not have put it any better myself. So That's a little bit about who works for us. Who do we work with? Well, core programs in Utah have done projects for the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Forest Service, the Department of Defense, the state of Utah, and municipalities such as Salt Lake, Monticello, Moab. The list goes on. I'd like to say that we have worked with every single agency in the state of Utah that in any way manages public lands. And every time I say that, I'm almost immediately proven wrong and find a new entity we can begin to work with. We look for partners who care about both the projects and the members engaged with those projects. We want to work with partners who also believe in our missions. We want to work with partners who want to take at least some time to explain not just the how, but also the why. We want partners who want to work with us and really want to, as the AmeriCorps pledge says, get things done. I'm certain that at some point you have hiked a trail we built, rafted a stretch of river we helped improve, or just enjoyed an area where we built a fence for protection. Now, this is the point where I would normally ask if there are any questions, but since there isn't an audience, I'd like to open the opportunity for us to discuss this further at some point down the road. There are truly few things I enjoy talking about more than the modern Conservation Corps movement. So I invite you to drop me an email or give me a call if you have questions, an idea for a project, or just want to talk about anything Corps related. And if you watched this entire thing and didn't fall asleep like my daughter usually does when I talk, well, you deserve some sort of a prize. Thank you for your time.